and welcome to season 2 of Building Influence. My name is Rowena Moraes. The Building Influence show features industry thought leaders and experienced professionals, some in the corporate world, some who are entrepreneurs, people who have achieved considerable success in their area of expertise. And these interviews bring together the best strategies, tools, and tips that they have found to be most effective in building visibility and credibility and achieving the goals that drive them. And this show examines 3 aspects of building influence, looking at the individual's profile, their network, and their body of work. And I was inspired to create this show because I believe that everyone has it within them to build their personal brand and their body of work. And watching these episodes, I hope that you'll be inspired to make things happen for yourself. Now, in season 1, we looked at the education sector, and in season 2, we're now taking a deep dive into people and human capital or human resources. And my guest today is David Wurth. Welcome, David. How are you today?
Thanks, Rowena. Very well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me onto your show. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. So let's dig right in. The first question is, tell us about your career journey. How much of it was deliberate? How much of it was, involved a little bit of moving with the flow? Are you currently where you decided that this is the direction you're going to take? Are you where you intended to be?
No, like quite a few of my colleagues who work in people and culture, as it's called now. When I first started, it was called personnel, and then it moved to HR or human resources, and now it's called people and culture, people and safety. I think quite a lot of my colleagues around the time when I did start off in this journey, so-called, was in the 80s, 1980s. So it's a long time ago. And really, I joined a large Australian telco. You can probably imagine who that might be. And having been trained as a teacher before that, but not really wanting to pursue a teaching career, I joined Telstra as Telstra, I've just said it, as a baseline clerical person, I was called. And because I had some sort of background in, training and teaching, I soon got a job within Telstra as a trainer. And for some reason, I ended up in the human resources training department of Telstra, never having really worked in human resources. So it was kind of bizarre. I was training stuff that I had no actual hands-on knowledge of. Very interesting.
Wow.
Dynamic. I know, it was kind of weird. So I was teaching things like I was teaching managers how to, do interview stuff. I was teaching human resources staff how to manage conflict. I mean, I guess I had those skills anyway, but I was like really young to be doing that sort of stuff. Anyway, so it was really totally by accident. And it just seemed like a good way to move up the sort of promotional ladder at a place like Telstra, because as I said, I did join at the very base level, and being a training officer, as they were called back then, that meant I could sort of jump a few of the clerical grades. So it was kind of about money, and I did like to teach anyway, I suppose, but I really didn't want to teach kids. I wanted to teach adults more than kids. So
yes,
the start of that.
Okay.
And then from there, I moved into a different HR job. I had, staff reporting to me, still within Telstra. And that was for about 12 years altogether. So training first, HR management for about another 7 years. Moved from Telstra in the mid-90s when Telstra downsized considerably, and then moved into an IT, working as the HR director for an IT company that was based in Canada, and I was there sort of in Australia for that. And then after that, I've pretty much worked on my own for the last 20 years. So started a registered training organisation. So that was all kind of leading into the training stuff, and also created my own HR consulting business, Wurth HR.
Excellent. Excellent. What a journey. So now when you look back on this life, this career, is there any one tactic that you might recall has helped you to become more visible, so that you're known for those particular skills and expertise? Is there one thing in particular?
Probably when I was in a training role in the RTO. So it was my own RTO, and I got exposure to a whole lot of students, first of all, but a whole lot of clients as well, some of whom became clients when I moved into the HR space later. So it was just, and again, that was kind of fortuitous. I didn't really plan it. And it
Mm-hmm.
just happened that, well, I was exposed to a lot of people, and those people were either parts of businesses or formed their own business later on. And I'd had that contact with them. And so that kind of led to more business. So again, it's the getting out there in whatever way works best for you, because not all of us enjoy networking, the sort of classic networking model.
Yes.
In fact,
Yeah.
I don't like it at all. So I'm not a great networker. I force myself to do it, but then if you got to force yourself to do it, I think people can actually tell that you're forcing yourself to.
That's right. That's
It
right.
doesn't work, right?
Well, we've got two questions that I want to touch on for networking, but before that, I want to just look a little bit more at the profile, because I've kind of broken the questions down into these three segments: talking about your profile, then the networking aspects, and then the body of
Oh,
work,
okay, right.
which is to me the most exciting. But in terms of your profile, are there things outside of networking? Are there things that you did or you relied on in order to help yourself become more visible?
One thing that I do still, and I've done it all my life really, is I really like to know how things work. So I do a lot
Yeah.
of research into HR trends, training initiatives that are taking off overseas in Australia, just to have this sort of body of knowledge that I can
Yeah.
tap into. And it's a consistent, or it's a constant journey of learning stuff. So you can never really stop learning and deliberately
That's
learn.
right.
So it involves lots of reading, lots of talking to people who have a level of expertise beyond mine, and
Yeah.
using parts of that. You can't use it all because it's just too much content. And clearly today it's so easy to get a lot of content. The trick is to filter it to suit what you want it for. And sometimes you
Yes.
forget stuff that you've come across or you've learned. So the second trick I think too is to be able to store it somewhere or keep it handy, because you can't expect to keep it inside your head the whole time. So you might need to
Oh,
go back to it. So have a bank um, outside your brain that you can tap into.
yep. Like possibly a digital, something on the
Something,
cloud or something on your
look,
computer.
I have a really basic system where I have this filing system on my Outlook account, and it's just filed by topic. And there's a whole lot of topics in
Yeah.
HR, as you can imagine. And if I read something, or if I've attended a seminar and they've sent you the recording of that seminar, I chuck it all in there. And every so often, I just sort of go back and have a flick through two or three of those folders just to remind myself of things that I've possibly forgotten. And it's a very deliberate thing you have to do. You have to make time for it. And I actually schedule something like that once a week. It's my reading time, I call it.
Oh,
Pretty
yep. Yep.
basic name, but that's what I literally do. I go back into the stuff that I've either stored in that system of mine, or I've got stuff that's actually in my inbox that I have to read, and then I plonk it into my storage thing. But you need to make time. And I used to start off by doing it as it came into my inbox, and that just didn't work because it was too stressful. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
something's coming, I better
Yeah.
read it, right? And I said, no, I'm
It's too hard,
park
right?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so much. So I park it, and I actually deliberately in my diary make time. I don't make the same time every week. It's just it
Yeah.
depends on the week. But I always like to
But it's
see.
become a habit.
Yeah, it's definitely become a habit.
That's what I'm
And
getting. It's become a habit, whatever the time frame is.
that's right.
Okay, that's a good tip. Now coming to the topic of your network, if I know you mentioned earlier that that's not really something you're super happy about, the whole networking thing. But if there were two or three key aspects of networking that you consider important, and if you can imagine you're talking to somebody who's pretty new to the idea of networking, what would you share with them?
Okay, I'd make sure that you follow up on things that you've said you're going to do. And I know that sounds very
Mhm.
simple, but lots of people in the networking game, I'll call it, make promises about, yes, we'll catch up and we'll do this and we'll do that. And it, to be honest, I'd
Yes,
say
and they never do.
75% of it never happens. And
Mm.
that's bad because that person's going to be lost to you forever. So if you say you're going to do something, as in, arrange for a meeting or send somebody something, which happens as well, because people start talking and they say, oh, that sounds interesting. Do you have anything on that? And I say, yep, I'll send you blah. Make sure you do that. So
Yes,
just
you do it. Yeah.
do what you say you're going to do. The other thing too is if you are meeting at a typical networking event, just kind of forget about yourself for a while and just go and do it. That's the best way that I can think of it because I'm fairly shy in those situations and I just have to almost sort of take on a different persona. And it's a bit like,
Yeah.
I think some people like being on stage, they sort of move into this twilight zone of a different person. I mean, it's not as dramatic as that, obviously, being in a social networking event. But if you can just sort of forget about your ego for a second and just sort of go out there and try as
Mm.
much as possible to be natural. But then if you're trying too hard to be natural, it's not natural. So there is some weird balance somewhere. I'm not sure where it is, but so, look, I would encourage people to do it, as in physically going out and meeting people face to face. I think that's the best way to network, as opposed to doing it online or have Zoom calls. Do it face to face as much as possible.
Yeah. Okay. And how do you make decisions about who to connect to? Like, in a face-to-face situation, it's pretty much playing it by ear in the moment.
Yeah.
When you're online on, say, a platform like LinkedIn, how
Mhm.
do you make decisions about who you would connect with?
On LinkedIn, I don't often actually make connections, funnily enough, because, well, I don't like it when people make connections with me on LinkedIn because 90% of the time, if you say yes, it would be great to join up or whatever. 2 or 3 days later, you get a sales pitch about something. So I have totally gone off linking in with anybody who's online. So I only do it face to face.
Face to face. Okay, right. And do you factor in a decent amount of time on a regular basis, or you
No, I
just
don't.
see what events come up and
Nope, I should do it far more. I do belong to the Sydney Chamber of Commerce, and they have fantastic parties, I've got to say. Beautifully
yeah,
catered for. So the food and booze are excellent. Some of the people you meet are fantastic as well. But I've just gone off it a bit for the last few months. I joined years ago, I think, called BNI. Some of you have probably heard of BNI. And in fact, probably
yeah,
most of you, if you're in your own business, you've probably dabbled in BNI at some stage or other. That was okay for a time, but again, it gets a bit kind of stale, a bit kind of procedural almost. So I kind of have
yeah,
these flurries of activity where I think, yeah, I'll sort of go out and meet people and do this. And then I get a bit disheartened by it, to be honest,
yeah,
because
yeah,
I don't know that I get a huge amount of work from it myself. I know lots of other people do, and lots of people get work from things like BNI as well. It just hasn't worked for me. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just a
yeah.
bad socializer.
Well, I think it's good that you still keep putting yourself out there, and you do have to kind of evaluate the effort and
Mm,
the pros and cons of everything. You can't just do it just because everyone's doing it. So
no.
I like the fact that you pull back when you need to, but then you don't say, I'm going to throw everything out
Mm.
as time goes by. If you find definitely there's some value in this, and so you get back in as and when you need to. And I think that's a good approach. All right. Now I want to talk about what I feel is the most exciting thing, your body of work. So
What do you
what
what,
do you
great way to
consider? Yes. So I like to use that term because it gives a sense of depth as to the things you're working on, and also just um, gives people a sense of, what are your areas of expertise? What are the areas that you're passionate about, that you care about? So what do you consider to be your unique strengths, your areas of expertise, and what have you done to build on these strengths?
I would say mainly it's in the area of workplace harassment awareness. I've done lots of training in that for various clients over so many years,
Yeah.
and it's even huger than it was 5 years ago. It's massive. It's everywhere. Every business
Yeah.
needs to have people trained in it and all this sort of stuff. So it's turning into a fantastic thing to have been involved in for so long because I've got this really good background in it. And it's something that I'm really concerned about as well. And the
Hmm.
psychosocial, environment that we're in now, it's massive. And there is so much work involved in it, and there's so much of a gap between where we should be and where we are. So that to me is what I'm really keen about. And I spend a fair bit of time
Okay.
on it, researching. There's a lot of resources now. In the last couple of years, there's been an explosion of resources. Something I'm doing now too is training people to train people within their own business. So I'm sort of training the trainer within that subject matter.
Okay. Well, that's
It's
good.
great. It's sort of better that I think it's better when somebody inside the business actually facilitates those sorts of sessions.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's a fairly new kind of selling thing of mine that I'm trying to do. And it means that I can, it means that more people can do it. If I train a few trainers, they can then sort of multiply out and do more people. So
Correct.
it
Yeah.
improves the coverage of it. So that's the first thing. The other thing too that has been a big achievement for me is working in uh, the vocational education and training space. So the vet sector, VET sector. Starting back when I started my own RTO, my registered training organization, back in 2002, and I had that for about 16 years. So that was a huge learning curve working in the compliance area, massive stuff in there, and also training people in a thing called the Cert 4 in training and assessment. So I've done lots of that both for my own RTO and also for other RTOs. I've probably trained about 1,000 people in the Cert 4 in training and assessment. So that's the qualification, if you don't know it, that a person needs to be
Yep.
the vocational trainer, basically in the TAFE space or in a private RTO. So those things are my two kind of big things: the vocational training area, and I'm also working with an RTO right now as well in their compliance
Okay.
area.
Besides working in these areas and focusing on these topics, are there any specific activities that you do to kind of shine a light on these areas of focus?
Well, yes, I talk about it with all my clients that I get. So all my new clients that sort of come every so often,
Okay.
that is
Notify them.
that is a big focus of mine to say, look, we can do all the classic HR things like employment
Yeah.
contracts, employee handbooks and stuff, but really we need to go beyond that now, and we need to go into the sort of delve deep into the psychosocial stuff, the mental health in the workplace, bullying, harassment, all those sorts of things need to be part of your um, remit, if you like, as an employer. And you need to be really conscious of the fact that you have this massive responsibility towards your workers in that space. And most people don't have any background in it or any training in it. And it actually terrifies them, basically. So I
Yeah. I imagine.
raise that and I confront that fear and I sort of help them come to terms with it.
Do you write about these topics as well?
Oh yeah, I have blogs.
Blog? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of blogs on my
Yeah.
Worth HR website, and I post them on LinkedIn, post them on Facebook.
Okay.
So yes, I do.
Cool.
write a fair bit about this sort of stuff.
Okay, excellent. All right, well, we're coming close to the end. I just have 3 questions left about habits and approach. So the first one is, do you have 2 habits, or if it's just one, that's fine, that you consider essential to your ongoing success?
I think it's having an interest, but almost an obsessive interest in some of the stuff you're doing. Like you won't have it in all of the stuff that you do on a day-to-day basis, but if certain things, like I've said that, I have this obsession with workplaces and how they're sort of creating, good things, but also the sort of negative things. So I have this
Yeah,
fascination with that. And so the key is find the bits of the job that you really like and focus on those. It's a bit like they say, focus on your strengths. Well, focus on the things you love as well, because that'll make it the time when you're doing stuff that you don't like, and there's parts of a job that we just don't like to do, and you can't really avoid that. But if you can really focus on the bits you like, then it makes the mundane bits a bit simpler to handle.
Has there been anything in particular that has helped you to overcome your fear? Any
Sorry, that has.
networking?
Sorry.
anything that has been instrumental in helping you overcome your fear?
My fear.
Any fears? You talked just now briefly about, not really enjoying networking.
Oh.
If you had any fears, do you have anything that you
Oh, look,
that you use to kind of help overcome those things?
I had, as most people do, quite severe glossophobia, which is the fear of public speaking.
Speaking, yeah.
Yeah, glossophobia. Yeah, that's a fear of public speaking. And the only way to get less fearful of that is to do it.
Yeah, totally.
There is no other way. It's the exposure. You know how they have fear of spiders? Well, you have to have spiders crawling all over you. I think it's called, I forget what it's called. It's some sort of therapy, but anyway, it's pretty basic. Just get up there and do it. Volunteer to speak.
Yep.
Get some
Yep.
training from some place like, what are they called? Toastmasters, for example. Go and do a presentation skills course. Be totally out of your comfort zone. And so that's what I've done. And it was curious because I trained to be a teacher 40 years ago with this fear. And somehow I've been able to push through that. So, but it's only because I've been exposed to it so much, and I've pushed myself to do it because I actually like it now. So
Yep. Great. I love that tip. I think and totally believe in that too. All right, last question. Any guiding principle or decision that helps you play the long game?
yeah, so it's the having an intense, almost a zealous, sort of fanatical liking for some of the stuff you do, and just wanting to find out how things work and why things are as they are. So it's just having a high level of curiosity, really. And I don't know how you actually get that, but I know how I've got it because I'm actually doing stuff that I like doing. So it's a bit hard if you're not doing stuff you like doing. So find what you like, and even if you find it like I did, which was like totally by accident, once you find it, really sort of grab onto it and really explore the possibilities of it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, David. This was really
Thanks,
good.
Rowena.
I enjoyed learning more about you and what motivates you. If viewers wanted to find you online, where should they go?
Okay, so they can go to my website, which is Wurth HR, and it's Wurth with the U. That's my surname, wurthhr.com.au. I'm on LinkedIn as well, obviously, David Wurth there. And Wurth HR is also on LinkedIn as a profile. I'm on Facebook. What What else am I on, Rowena? I'm on a lot of things.
I think it's just pretty much, I think those are the two important bits.
I think so, yeah.
Website, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So
Exactly
yeah,
right.
that's good. Excellent.
Great to catch
Thank you
up.
so much for coming on the show.
My
It's
pleasure.
good
Thanks for
catching
having
up,
me.
and